Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Dachek with Queen Bee Creations and thanks for tuning in and joining us today. Today we are going to be doing some things with these little cardboard book boxes. These are really commonly found at thrift stores. I got these three for about $1.50 each, and I did get this one big one for about $3. And this one is a little bit special because it's actually wooden. So it's wood with the cardboard surround. But what I like about these is the form is already there for you. I mean, certainly, put them up on your shelf, use them as a hidden storage on your bookshelf. But I like taking them and zhuzhing them up a little bit. They're great little boxes to have on hand, maybe in your craft room for extra storage. They are great for little jewelry boxes, in kids' rooms for a lot of their knickknacks, or actually out on your coffee table to hide your remotes. So if you're looking for, you just don't like the look of them lying around all over the place, or you can never find them and you need to have one common spot to put them, these make great projects to be able to zhuzh up and have out on a coffee table and sticking all your remotes in them down in your TV or family room. Either way, we're gonna treat them all a little bit differently so that I can give you a number of different ideas on things that you could do with maybe items that you've got on hand or different projects that you could do to be able to dress them up with a look that you like. And I love the fact that they've all got like a little magnetic clasp already built in. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get them all painted out. And I'm just going to base coat all of them white to start. I may be doing different colors, but I do need to kind of at least get a base coat on so that we start to cover up some of the patterns that are on all of them, and that I can use it as a solid foundation. So I'm gonna leave you while I go get these all painted white. Y'all know what that looks like, so you don't need to see me do it. And then I'll come back when I'm ready to start doing some of the decorating and zhuzhing stuff. That's the fun part, so I'll see you for that. I've gotten all of the books painted with one rough coat of white. Because I'm going to be doing other treatments to them, I just wanted to have a nice base. I didn't need it to be perfect yet, because I'll be adding more things, so it was unnecessary. For this big one, so this is my big one, that big wooden one, I am going to add a mold. Now this is from the Frames 1 mold from IOD. And we're gonna get that one on and glued on and drying while we move on to some other stuff. So what I am looking at doing is the whole frame and being able to get that in. So I need a bit of a whack of clay. So I'm using the air dried clay from IOD, and the molds, the clay, they're all available on the website, queenbeecreationshome.com. But what I love about these molds is that micro rim, because it really gives you the opportunity to be able to get nice crisp edging. And if you've used some other molds that don't have it, and I have some of those molds, so I use them, but I miss the rim. I miss the rim when I'm using them, just because it makes it so much easier to be able to get just that nice crisp finish of it. So this particular frame is kind of like almost like a two in one, because you get the nice medallion frame in the center, you get this big outside frame. I'm gonna try and get both done. Now this centerpiece kind of raises up a little bit, but I'm gonna see if I can get enough clay on there that it would still kind of work without being too wonky. And now I'm just going to turn it out. So flip it over to turn it out. And I do like to have kind of like a dry paintbrush to just kind of help push some of that clay out, because I did not cornstarch it. If you want them to come out nice and easy, cornstarch your mold first. That would have helped because this isn't coming out great. But we'll see if I can kind of squeeze it and make it work here. There we go. All right, so what I want to do is I want to put glue on the back all over. And I just have a wood glue that I'm using. Any kind of glue is going to work. I prefer the wood glues just because they tend to have a quicker drying time, and I know that they've got some strength to them. But you could use an E6000, you could use, you could even use like a white craft glue if you wanted, but I'm usually doing this onto pieces of furniture, so I like them being fairly sturdy. And I'm just using a little, this is actually one of my transfer tools, just to get the glue right out to the edges. So for me, you know, the glue as it dries is going to shrink a little bit, which means like your edges would have a tendency to lift. So getting the glue right out to the edges is really helpful to prevent that. Just got a couple of spots I want a little bit more. There we go. So I don't have tons, but I'm going to be letting this dry flat so I don't have to worry about it sliding around or sliding down on a piece if I was gluing it onto a, you know, a horizontal surface. So there we go. Lovely. All right, so I'm just kind of squaring it up, making sure that I didn't let my frame get too wonky. But there's my little frame. And I am going to let that be it. I'm going to be doing some painting and treatments on this, and I don't want to overdo it. So this is all that we're doing right now to this one. But before I call it quits for the day, just because it's getting late, I'm getting a little hungry. So make sure you always seal your clay up. It will dry out, and you want to make sure that you could use that. Okay, so I have some Mod Podge, I have a paintbrush, and I have one of my other boxes. So what I do have is a napkin, and this is a 3-ply napkin. So I do get some of you that say, look, I have a hard time tearing it apart. I usually have an okay time with the first layer, but a lot of the edges of these are slightly perforated, right? And that's designed to hold those layers together. So I find if I kind of rip off a little piece, then it helps me be able to tease apart that next layer. But I find like the perforation just keeps this second layer kind of so stuck on that I just can't get it apart. Okay, and I do save these backings for other things. This one's kind of cool because it's got still a little bit of the impression of it, but whether it's for cleanup or whatever, I do hang on to them. So what I do have is, if I cut this exactly in half, and I'm gonna get a better pair of scissors for this, then I have a front and back. I don't have a spine, but that's okay, because we're going to do something different on the spine. So what I am going to do is I am going to decoupage this onto the front, and I'm going to do it so it's kind of overlapping a little on both sides and both ends, and then let it dry, and then I will decoupage the other one onto the other side, just because I don't want to have to let it dry this way, because the edges would still have some and it would stick. So it's just easier to go one at a time. Now I'm at the bottom of the barrel. You can use glossy or matte. I'm just using basic matte decoupage, nothing magic about it. If you could use from the DIY line, you can use the liquid patina, which is an awesome decoupage medium. You could take your white PVA glue and add a little bit of water to it to thin it down, and you could decoupage with that. So I don't want you to get hung up on not doing some of these things, because hey, I don't have everything in stock, so it doesn't have to be super crazy. And I get that I'm a shop and I sell a lot of this stuff, but I like giving you guys some alternatives so that you know, if I was doing this on furniture, I'd be using my liquid patina because it's the best, but I don't need to use it for a project like this. Okay, so I was trying to lay that down in a way that I could minimize wrinkles. And then I like to just kind of tease out some of the wrinkles by taking something flat. Sometimes I use like an old credit card to do this. I just happen to have this transfer tool, but it's a nice flat edge. And I want to do it gently because I don't want to tear anything. But I just want to make sure that everything is stuck down. So I will say as well, the only thing that you want to make sure is that if your napkin that you're using has a distinct top and bottom, when you glue the next one on to the back, make sure that it's going the same direction. Some don't, and some don't matter. Some napkins, it would matter. And for this, you could use tissue paper, you could use old scrapbook paper. So as much as I'm using a napkin, just because I figure everybody's got some old napkins hanging out in their house, you could use whatever else you have on hand. Now, I'm going over the top with some more of the decoupage medium. Don't work this. This is moist now. This is kind of wet. So your napkin, because it's very thin, is very soft. So it's susceptible to lift up or tear if you work your surface too much or too hard. So we just want to layer this on. It's going to dry clear, so don't be agonizing over, you know, getting your coverage to look perfect when it's wet. Okay, but I do want good coverage because, you know, it's going to be on a tabletop. It's going to get used, hopefully, whether, you know, for jewelry or little trinkets or for your TV remote. I mean, whatever it happens to be for. I mean, I think these would be super cute little sewing sewing notion boxes. Maybe this is where you are keeping all your buttons, or, you know, cute little gift if you've got somebody who's a sewer and you're going to be giving them, you know, maybe a new pair of shears, and then this box to be able to store a lot of their sewing stuff, all their bobbins or some of their threads, spools. I don't know. There's a lot of crafts that people are into that have a lot of different bits and bobs to it, and this could be that kind of box. I mean, you know, same thing if somebody's into beading, to be able to hold a lot of their notions in this, or just it's their toolbox with their pliers and different elements. Okay. So there we go. So I'm gonna let this one dry, and then I'm gonna do the back cover as well, and then I'll come back and we'll focus on the spine. So all that I'm working on right now is getting another layer of color onto some of my books. So this one I am painting in Pedal Pusher by DIY, which is just this beautiful, beautiful blue. I think it just doesn't get recognized as much as the turquoises that are in the line, but I love this color. The other book that we haven't done anything to yet is going to be in Petticoat Pink. And then our big heavy book that we put the frame on is going to get another coat of the beadboard by DIY. So painting the frame and everything. So again, I need to paint these out one side, lay them down, let them dry, and then I can paint the other side, and then we can come back. So I got a little bit of painting to do, but DIY paint dries fairly quickly, and I'm gonna move from book to book to book, so that gives me a chance to let one thing dry while I move on to the next book. So while the paint on my books is drying, we can move on to the next step of this. So I have it decoupaged front and back, and already it looks so much nicer, but I didn't do the spine. What I wanted to do was maybe do kind of a contrasting ribbon or something. So because we've got kind of that black tone to this, I thought it'd be kind of neat to do a funky black ribbon. So kind of a striped ribbon. So what I'm looking at doing is taking this ribbon, and I've got it folded on this end, and I just need to kind of determine the end here and fold it over as well. Now, I'm not ironing this. You could, because it's a wired ribbon, so it's got wire running on both sides. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do, I'm just going to cut this off just a little bit shorter. I don't need to have quite that much folded over. But I am going to want to kind of glue these two sides down so that they act as one when I go to glue it onto my book. So I'm going to glue both those ends. To do this, what I am going to do is kind of glue across the top and a little bit down those two sides just to get one end started and anchored down a little bit. And I'm just being careful to not do, as is my tendency, big globs of glue. So I want to get this glued, and I want to get it over to the sides a little bit. And this particular ribbon just, you know what, is just like the perfect width. So I am going to start running my bead of glue down. That had a glob. Just trying to be a little bit delicate about it. So then this becomes my first finished box. So I have my little floral design. It opens up, still has the magnetic clasp working. I've got this beautiful black and white spine on it. And it's just nice, it's simple, but it's just like a cute little update to this box that is just going to make it so much cuter if it's sitting out on your dresser top or down in your basement or in your craft room for your notions. 1 done, 3 to go. For my little blue box, what I do have is a piece of the IOD toile transfer paper. And I think this piece is maybe, almost big enough to go round. Okay, let me problem solve here. I can get away with cutting this in half, and then I will work out my spine issues after. All right, always something. It was just like the last little piece that I had, right? It's just, I thought this would be a cute one to do on it. So let's just commit, and then we'll figure out the spine after. Okay, so much for this one being easily done. Now, what I am going to do, actually prior to putting my transfer on, is I am going to seal this with DIY liquid patina. My transfers are going to stick better. It's just going to make my life easier. So I'm going to seal it before I do anything else with it. Let's move on to our pink box. Let me just make sure I'm on the top. And what I do have is a small little stencil that I'm going to use from Jamie Ray Vintage. It's kind of square. It's very simple. It's just got a couple of little leaves and just says, you know, merchant. It's going to be perfect. And for this, to kind of contrast a little bit with my pink, I have cherry picked from DIY, which apparently has not been open in a long time either. There we go. They all do come together. All right, so what I'm gonna wanna do is, and I'm just dipping into the lid, get a little bit of paint on, take most of it off so that I can get a fairly crisp image. And you just want to have a fairly dry brush when you are stenciling, just so that you don't get too much paint on your brush that's going to then bleed under your stencil. It's better to do too little and add to it than too much, because then you're just in trouble. Okay, moment of truth time. Oh, lovely, nice and crisp, and just very kind of understated, right? It's just kind of very, very pretty, very cute, nice and understated, and okay, I like that. Now, what I am going to do is I am just going to take just those leaves, but I have a little bit of the line below it that I don't want. And it kind of integrates into that leaf. So I'm going to tape that part off. There we go. And I'm just going to put those 2 leaves down here on the back, just for a little bit of extra interest. Okay, so we have our front and our back, just nice and cute, nice and simple, but I'm gonna put that off to the side to dry because we're not done with that one yet either. Figures, right? It's always something. My blue book is dry, and so I want to attach my transfers onto it just so that I can see where I'm going with the spine. But all that we're gonna do is we're gonna peel off the backing paper, so the white backing paper, lay our toile transfer down on front. And the beauty of this toile transfer, quite honestly, is that you can use any color underneath it, and it totally changes the look and feel of it. So all that we're going to do to release it is take the little stick that comes in the transfer pack with you, well, not with you, with it, and we're just going to rub it on. And transfers particularly like shiny, slick surfaces, so it's not going to take a lot to get this to start to release. So I just kind of did a loose all over just to get it to kind of start to do its thing, but look how quick this is happening already, right? And then as you slowly peel it back, you can see areas that did stick, areas that didn't stick, and you just get to go back over them to make sure you got it all. You know, sometimes you miss a little blade of grass or something. And I mean, really, look, what could be easier? And they just have so much detail. They're just so gorgeous. The IOD sisters do an awesome job at coming up with patterns that really lend itself to a variety of projects. I've done the toile on a dresser, so I did all the drawer fronts in this toile. Loved it. And I've done, you know, little pieces of it in frames and, you know, some of the small projects. But look how beautiful that looks. And then I just like to take that backing paper, shiny side out, and just kind of rub it all over. This is called burnishing, but what it does is it just makes sure that all of that is completely stuck down. Now I'm gonna do the back piece because that's ready to go. And the one piece that I didn't show you was when I was painting my sealer on the blue book, I also painted that tiny little section in there, and I just took a little black and white floral transfer that was left over, just this tiny little piece left over, and I did that in the center. We're gonna come over to this book, but I'm gonna finish this part off camera and then come back when we start doing the rest. With this book, let's get going on it then. I have some DIY clear wax. I'm just looking to see if I actually have a brush. Yes, I do. Okay, so I'm going to take some clear wax and I'm going to wax my entire piece. This will serve to seal my paint, and it will also seal my transfer. Okay, my transfer is stuck down there really well, but I want to get this all sealed up. And I just want to do my edges really quick too because I painted that. Alrighty. Now that I have that going, what I want to do is I want to age this a little bit. And so what I do have is a product, it's like a decrepit dust. DIY has dark. This happens to be, and white, I think. This happens to be a light gray. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking it on a dry cloth. I don't even know who makes the gray dust, sorry. But I'm taking it on a dry brush and I am just kind of brushing it all over the book. I'm kind of aging this a little bit in essence. So on my frame, it's gonna stay down in all those crevices. I don't want this to look brand spanking new. And this book cover had kind of texture to it, right? You can kind of see it starting to sit down into all of that texture. Now, what I am gonna do is once I get this all on, I'm gonna take a cloth, just happens to be the other ply of my tissues, of my napkin from the decoupage, and I'm gonna wipe it away. So it's gonna sit down in a lot of the lows, but it's not gonna be quite as heavy in there. So it just takes it from being, if you look at the spine, stark white, it just kind of grays it out just a little bit. So I'm gonna do that over the whole book, and then I'm going to let my wax dry a little bit before we do our last step to finish off our white book. I have some gold, right? So DIY makes a golden ticket. And I'm just pouncing it off so that it's light. And I'm just kind of running it over here, over the pages, so they look a little bit gilt-edged on this one because it has ridges that I can do this to, but also because I want to take that same product and just dry brush it over the top of my frame. So I want to add a bit of that gold in there. And do I have a smaller brush over here? Yes. I just want to take a little bit of a smaller brush to go around this little curved frame. So this isn't super bold, it's just adding a little bit of a highlight more than anything else. And in this case, I'm going to do it down the spine as well. So just lightly, but just again, so I get a little bit of something happening. You can see how that just kind of sets it off. Well, and here we are with our stack of books. I hope that, you know, this one was an example of decoupaging. We did a little ribbon backer on this. Super cute to just kind of sit out on a dresser, be able to toss some of your jewelry or your keys, you know, in a hallway, coins. Same with this little guy as well. This is the one that we did the IOD transfer on. And again, they're just perfect for, you know, maybe tossing some of your sewing notions in, or having on hand with some of your craft supplies. Maybe something is all for buttons. This one, you know, all we did was paint and we did some stenciling on it. And then under the ribbon on the spine, we glued in a couple of strings and attached, you know, some leaves in keeping with this, a little key, and we just tied it in a bow. So again, you can just flip it. It's a pretend closure because, I mean, obviously this is on a magnet and it closes on its way. This bigger one we did with the IOD mold, and it's a little bit more heavy duty. We gave it the light gold spine. Any of these too, you could personalize. So if you're creating this for maybe a child, you could put, you know, a stencil on there, Cindy's treasures, Ellie's treasures, you know, do it for a little boy to be able to put all of his, found rocks and the fancy sticks and anything, explorations, so you could do a box with some of the IOD transfers with hot air balloons and exploration. And so this becomes their explorer's box. Maybe they take it out on hikes and they put all of their found treasures in it. There's so many options with these, and they are so inexpensive and so easy to find. So my hope with this is not that you're kind of looking, going, oh, that's the perfect design, but that it gets your head working. You're gonna create using, napkins or transfers or stencils that you have, or some moldings, or bits of paper. I mean, it would be cool if it was for a kid, get them to paint a picture that goes onto their treasure box and decoupage that on. You can personalize this in so many ways, and it just becomes such a fun, very unique, and very personal way to be able to have some extra storage, some space to be able to put some things away a little bit more neatly than maybe just tossing them all onto a countertop. I hope that it gave you a little bit of inspiration and some ideas, if nothing else. Let me know your thoughts. As always, I love to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take care.